Well, heading overseas now, and a UN report has highlighted the horrific suffering in Yemen as the country enters its second year of war. UNICEF says children are paying a huge price. They make up more than a third of the 3,000 civilians killed so far, and the report finds that malnutrition rates have doubled and hundreds of children are swapping school for fighting. Anne Barker has more.
Faisal Ahmed has just buried his 5-month-old son Uday. All that's left is to pour water on his grave to stop the earth blowing away. Only days before, tiny Uday was still alive in hospital, but desperately malnourished. His mother, Intisar Hezam, brought him to the emergency ward 3 weeks ago, but there was no bed until this week. But a lack of medicines and the boy's worsening health meant doctors were unable to save him.
They took him out of the malnutrition ward yesterday. They said there were no beds. He didn't eat yesterday or the day before.
The spread of hunger has been the most tragic consequence of Yemen's war since a Saudi-led coalition backed by the US began bombing the country a year ago. Malnutrition rates have doubled as food prices have soared. In this hospital alone, 15 children have died from malnutrition this year. Saddam Al-Azizi heads the hospital's emergency unit.
The
health facilities are, of course, next to nothing. A lot of the treatments are increasingly unavailable. Health services are completely gone with the blockade. The health situation has completely deteriorated.
In a report marking the war's anniversary, the UN Children's Agency, UNICEF, says the scale of suffering in Yemen is staggering and children have paid the highest price. Julien Harnais is the UNICEF representative in Yemen.
2,290 children have been killed or injured, and 61% of those through airstrikes.
Children make up more than a third of the 3,000 civilians killed since the war began. Schools everywhere are closed so that 400,000 children are no longer in class, and hundreds more have been forcibly recruited as child soldiers.
At the same time, we've seen a massive explosion in the amount of children recruited into armed groups.
The Saudi-led coalition began its bombardment of Yemen to halt the advance of Shiite rebels, or Houthis, who had taken control of much of the country 2 years ago, including the capital Sana'a. A new round of peace talks has been scheduled, but neither side is hopeful of a breakthrough. Musa Kalab has studied the situation for the Orient Research Centre.
All
the parties in the Yemen conflict have realised the crisis must be resolved and that military operations and warfare are not the answer.
The peace talks, if they go ahead, will likely discuss how Yemen can make the transition to a new coalition government that represents all sides. But political analysts, including Abdel Bari Taha, say the immediate challenge is for rebel forces to put down their weapons before handing the capital Sana'a to an interim government, something that seems unlikely without international support.
This is the only way to resolve all problems and help bring governance, peace and stability.
Even if there's a breakthrough, UNICEF says the violence will have an impact in Yemen for generations to come.
Anne Barker reporting.